Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Radio Unplugged. It's our very own live series that we've recently started. I'm Sakshi, and I'm excited to be your host today. Whether you're a passionate radio enthusiast, broadcaster, or someone curious about the future of digital radio, you're in the right place. Because today we have an exciting session lined up as we dive into the Digital Radio Mondiale, DRM, a groundbreaking technology that's transforming global broadcasting. And to help us understand its impact, we're bringing together some of the biggest names in the digital radio industry. Joining us today, we have Ruxandra Obreja, Chairman of the DRM Consortium, Matthew Phillips, Product Director, Broadcast and Maritime CML Micro, and Gunter Lorenz, CEO of WRTH, who will be leading today's discussion. They'll be sharing their insights on DRM's capabilities, its role in the future of radio, and what it means for listeners, broadcasters, and the industry as a whole. We'll start the discussion between our guests, followed by an open Q&A session with the audience. So you all can keep on sharing your questions in the chat box you see on your screen. Keep on sending them throughout the session, and we'll jump onto them towards the end of the session. So let's get started. Gunter, please, we'd love to hear from you now.
Yeah, thank you, Sakshi, for introducing this session. Thanks, Ruxandra, and thanks, Matthew, to join. Thanks to everyone out there in the wide world of radio enthusiasts for joining this session. And whenever I'm thinking about DRM, what comes into my mind is that we have this that nature has provided us with this wonderful spectrum of shortwave frequencies. They allow us to communicate on this planet, coast to coast, around the globe with zero infrastructure. We just need a transmitter on one side and a receiver on the other side. And this wonderful spectrum is being used, unfortunately, not as much as it was used when I was a young boy. But it's still used, and I think using it in a digital way is very, very exciting. And this is what our session today is about: understanding how we can use shortwave, and not only shortwave, but also parts of the spectrum for digital broadcasting. So, to introduce and to start with, my first question would be to Ruxandra and Matthew. Can you quickly explain us what is DRM technology? And what is its difference to other digital radio standards? So what is DRM?
DRM is and started as a solution of replacing what you rightly described, shortwave, and also medium wave. Some people call it HF and AM. This happened about 20 years ago. DRM was really launched in China at its first meeting there. And we had engineers from a lot of countries. They were from the UK, from Germany, from US, and also from France. And that's why we have the name Digital Radio Mondiale, which is a French word for global. And we are truly global. In 2011, the standard was extended to the VHF bands. You are very familiar with FM. There is also band 1, less used, and band 3, which is occupied currently by television in some countries or by DAB in Europe. So the technology is digital. It covers all frequency bands. So we are the only standard recognized by ITU and ETSI that is both global and open. Open meaning that we have no secrets. You can understand the technology and apply it any way you want. What is unique? As I explained, it's the only solution that will give you from the very local coverage to national and international coverage. We've got transmissions from the UK that reached Australia and New Zealand. We have recently got transmissions from New Zealand to southern Finland, from Romania to northern Brazil, and that is the beauty of shortwave. We have medium wave, and of course, lately we have been pushing a lot the solution for FM. It's a very interesting solution based on what people already have, on the infrastructure that exists. But I'll stop here.
Thank you. And it seems there's much more in DRM, as these three letters actually seem to show. So and you already mentioned medium wave, but you also mentioned shortwave. So why do you think is DRM important for international, for global broadcasting? What does it do now, and what could be its benefits even more in the future?
It's very interesting. I'm banging my own, and I'm sort of talking about myself. But before I came to this podcast, I just got noticed that in Red Tech, which is one of our industry publications in Europe, I've just published a blog about shortwave and the cuts that were recently announced by the Trump administration, affecting Voice of America, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Europe. And of course, they are international broadcasters. And this has put back onto the map the question about international broadcasting, public broadcasting, reaching into areas that might be under war conditions or emergency conditions, and so on and so forth. I think that very briefly, when I'm inviting you to read my article, but I think that there has been perhaps too much damage done to shortwave broadcasting, international broadcasting, in the name of new technology, IP, artificial intelligence. Everything is going to replace shortwave, whereas shortwave remains a fantastic plan B. Terrestrial broadcasting doesn't need IP, doesn't need undersea cables, doesn't need any of that. And it can reach populations that otherwise are cut off or live in very, very difficult conditions. I think it is time to reconsider international broadcasting and strengthen it with the power of digital, and that is DRM. And don't forget, you spoke about the spectrum. When you give up frequencies, they are gone. And where do they go? Well, look at our friends in Russia, China. They will snap them up straight away. If they have no value, why do they need them? Why do they broadcast instead of ABC Australia to Pacific or in Africa? Stop.
Okay. We talked about digital, and of course we know that there's analog shortwave is around since many years, almost close to 100 years since radio was as such invented and established. But how would DRM improve the listening experience compared to this traditional analog broadcasting?
I think I will defer to Matthew, because
I was going to say I'll pick that one up. Well, DRM allows a broadcaster to transmit good quality content to its listeners. So one of the things you notice immediately from DRM on shortwave is the very high quality of the audio. We've recently seen Radio Romania International actually upgrade their DRM infrastructure to support the latest of the codecs, which is the way that audio is coded for transmission. And with the latest codecs, which is known as XHEAAC, you can hear almost FM quality stereo music on HF with no background noise, no hisses, no pops, no heterodynes, and no fading. And so I think DRM allows broadcasters to transmit richer content. You can have more channels in the available space. If you can transmit simultaneous language services, for example. And additionally, there's a data channel. So you can augment the broadcast with text and pictures. And for international broadcasters involved in some form of educational project, then the ability to not only hear the audio, but read the text and see the picture from the user in real time is also very powerful. So I think it's got a very rich utility-based, shall we say, for really making shortwave broadcasting very advantageous.
Mm-hmm. And still, with all these capability and with all this quality it can transmit, it still fits into the channel scheme that we are used to on medium wave and on shortwave. It doesn't require larger bandwidth. One thing that I've always wondered is if one would extend that bandwidth, would there be any benefit in having more bandwidth, or would it not work because the receivers are not designed to work with larger bandwidths?
Do you want me to pick that up as well, Ruxandra? Okay, so on HF, the standard DRM band transmission bandwidth is 10 kilohertz. So you tune with a 5 kilohertz raster, but the actual channel bandwidth is 10 kilohertz. But DRM can transmit in 5 kilohertz, or 10, or 20, or indeed the 9 kilohertz and 18 kilohertz for regions 1 and 3, where that's the channel spacing used in medium wave. And effectively, you can trade bandwidth for the number of services and quality. So potentially, if you have a 20 kilohertz channel available, you can have better quality audio, or you can have more audio channels. And it's actually very flexible in the way the standard works to allow you to trade bandwidth, quality, and actually robustness. And what I mean by that is the ability to resist the very challenging propagation environment that you have on HF. So you can, if you want a transmission that's really designed for local broadcasting, you can make it less robust, then you have more bits available for content. And so you can have richer content. And the DRM standard allows you to, as a broadcaster, to trade off all these things. And the receivers, well, the receiver that my company develops, it automatically understands what is being sent and adapts and changes its decode algorithms accordingly, so that the user doesn't need to know about any of those things. They just hear the channel that they wanted to hear in the quality that's available.
I just want to jump in because I saw a comment that shortwave, DRM in shortwave doesn't propagate well. I told you about transmissions received, and our YouTube channel will give you dozens, if not hundreds of examples. I think shortwave has its own challenges, as we know. Day and night are mainly the challenges. In DRM, though, as I explained, we have had excellent audio at 10,000, 11,000 kilometers. So, of course, we can't fight physics, but DRM gives, as Matthew explained, gets rid of all those crackling and fading and so on, and gives you quality audio. And one more point, because we spoke mainly about HF and AM. Let me get to VHF. DRM in VHF, especially band 2, which you all know as FM, because we all listen to FM stations, only needs half of the bandwidth, only 100 kilohertz. Imagine that you can get up to 3 programs, probably 2 very good audio programs, and 1 data channel, which can be, you know, your text, your lyrics of the whatever you want, advertising, whatever you want. All that in half the bandwidth needed for FM, and also at much, much less electricity consumption. Nowadays, when spectrum is in many cases a national asset, like water, like oil, like gas, and we should look after it, that is something that you shouldn't neglect. The fact that you can fit many more stations, have more variety, more competition if you want, or simply give more possibility to more stations to be there by using the spectrum much more efficiently.
Could I just make one last comment on the propagation? I'll be very quick. I think because I'm a shortwave listener and an enthusiast as well, so I perhaps understand the context of the question. It is fair to say that DRM, the minimum signal strength for you to hear the DRM signal is higher than the minimum signal strength you need to listen to a noisy AM broadcast. But you have to remember that the DRM, because it's digital, has this so-called threshold effect. In other words, it's either there and perfect, or it's not there at all, which is quite different from analog. As a shortwave listener, we're used to the fact that you might hear the signal and you can hear it in the background, and it's got a heterodyne and it's got some splatter from an adjacent channel, but you can just about still hear it. You don't get that effect in DRM. It's either there or it isn't, but it will be there and very clear at lower signal strengths than you would need for an analog signal to sound the same.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. And if it comes from somebody who really shares our enthusiasm on weak signals, and that's most of us do, I still remember that in the old days of shortwave itself was used to feed programs to relay stations on a utility band frequency. So the receiver already caught a shortwave signal which went through fading and distortion and whatever was there, and then it was retransmitted. Which reminds me about Radio New Zealand, I think, if I'm correct, using DRM for feeding. Perhaps you want to comment on how that came, how they took this decision, and give some background about this.
Radio New Zealand are pioneers in that, and they are basically, to make it very simple, they are using DRM as a distribution of signal rather than, of course, if people have receivers and can receive it, that's fine. But they want their programs to reach a lot of the Pacific Islands, very scattered over a huge area, and frankly, with less possibility of digitizing radio very soon, with populations that need information. And so they have decided to use, they have, I think, two strong, powerful shortwave transmitters in central Northern Ireland, and they have decided to use one of them for sending their programs in DRM format, in digital format. It is received as such in some of the islands, like Samoa, for example, and then it is reconverted to an FM signal, so people can listen to Radio New Zealand in Samoa, for example, if you are there. What really encouraged us very much was that last year, I think in the summer or in their winter, if you want, they replaced one of their old transmitters with yet another Ampeg-on transmitter, powerful transmitter. And I can only say they wouldn't have done that unless this whole distribution via DRM experiment or process hadn't been successful. It is very exciting, it is very interesting, and I can only tell you that every time we talk to African colleagues and partners, they are very interested. I mean, don't forget, some of the countries in Africa are as big or bigger than Germany or France, and they have scattered populations. So that might be a solution. We, as promoters of the standard, we would like to see receivers and listeners and, listening to digital. But if information and education can reach those remote areas where populations do not have these receivers yet and are less connected to, let's call it, a digital world of the 21st century, we are totally supportive of using DRM as distribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely, I think the people in Samoa, they will like the good quality of the DRM signal rebroadcast on FM. There's this concept of becoming green also in broadcasting. So energy efficiency is a major aspect. Would you like to say how DRM fits into this idea?
We have now sort of tried to impress the industry, the broadcasters, the regulators, governments, everyone with the true green credentials of digital radio. Because digital radio is, first of all, more efficient. We explained the 2 to 3 audio programs on one channel in either the channelization of the HF and AM and 100 kilohertz in FM. But I think where a lot of broadcasters are suffering is that electricity costs have gone up. Therefore, running a radio station has become very expensive, whether you are a big public broadcaster or a small local community station. This is the bane of, and it is a personal challenge for ourselves, for our own households. And here we have very good news because digital, and I won't go into all the technicalities, we claim and we have established that in shortwave, medium wave, using DRM transmitter or a DRM upgraded transmitter, an analog upgraded to digital, will probably lower the electricity bill by 40 to almost 80%. And DRM in FM, which is more local, of course, we think as a ballpark figure that the electricity consumption can be reduced by almost 90%. People are still mesmerized and using in large numbers FM all over the world. One thing that people don't tell you very often is that FM is from a green point of view, electricity consumption, not a very, how shall I say, not a very good platform, because FM uses a lot of electricity. So by going digital, you can multiply the number of channels up to 3 and 1 data, and you can lower the electricity consumption for up to 90%. So if this is not green, what is green? It's, of course, dependent on the age of the transmitter. It depends, of course, on the power you use, the coverage you want to reach. I mean, there are many variables. What we have done, because people used to ask us, we have created a tool which is called the energy tool, which is created by the DRM. And it is a fantastic tool. First of all, it is free. You can get it from us free. Secondly, you enter the exact coordinates and power and all the details, actual details of your transmitter in analog, and then you can going and trying to find out what it would cost you to go digital, then this tool, this machine, let's call it, will give you the exact saving of your particular transmitter, not of what I'm saying now in a very general way. Moreover, it will create a sort of energy efficiency text report that you can give to management. Very often managers do not understand all the ins and outs and the flexibility and the qualms and all that. But half a page which says, this is what will cost you in analog. If you go digital, this is what will cost you. And we had a clear case. I think that as we are in the UK, BBC World Service is broadcast through its partner. It's a network operator called Encompass. And they looked at their major transmission sites for BBC World Service across the world. And they calculated, using this calculator, this tool, that they could save around £1 million a year just by going digital. So
okay. Yeah. That would be actually
very convincing.
Definitely. I think some guy in the US administration should have read that paper before he decided to switch off everything. He could have taken a much smarter decision. Now, time is progressing quickly. I would like to add one final question from my list, and then it's for our viewers and everyone here on this session. What role does WRTH play in helping people discover DRM schedules? Or let's put it the other way around. What can we do to make sure that everyone who wants to listen to DRM broadcasts can actually do it and can find out how good it sounds?
Matthew?
Well, as a purchaser of the WRTH, I think we're very happy, obviously, to have been featured in this year's publication, and I think that's something we would want to continue to do, so that we can make sure that the readership of the WRTH is regularly informed of the progress. We do aim ourselves to, there is a page on the DRM website where we try to keep track of all the available transmissions in DRM, but I think just making it easy for potential listeners to know, I'm in this location, I'm interested in listening to a broadcast, what's available currently that I could potentially listen to. And obviously we hope that more broadcasters will adopt DRM, and there will be more content for people to listen to. We haven't really had time to mention it, but my own participation in DRM is around supplying solutions for enabling receivers, and we certainly expect to see many more low-cost DRM receivers available. And as those receivers become available, and as DRM gets featured in more and more listener user products, then obviously there's a great incentive for broadcasters to be able to adopt the standard, and keeping track of that and providing information on that from the WRTH, I think, is very, very valuable.
By the way, we are changing the time, the clock in Europe at least, tomorrow night, and our www.drm.org has something called broadcast schedules. So please look for the new schedules. That is, and that's where I see to us WRTH is like the Bible of broadcasting. I mean, I haven't been anywhere. I used to work in the BBC. I haven't been in any office which didn't have the handbook, and we would like to continue and strengthen the cooperation, because curated, interesting information about stations, about broadcasts. I mean, everyone says, oh, Google or Amazon or whatever. Yeah, but it's a bit like radio. Information is out there, but we want it curated. We want to have trusted and trusting information. So I think that's your role, and we are very, very happy to strengthen the cooperation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruxandra. Thank you very much, Matthew, for your replies. Now back to Sakshi for letting our questions from the audience.
Sure. Thank you so much. It was such a fantastic discussion. We've had some questions in the chat, and we've been addressing them throughout the session. We also had some questions on social media. I'm going to pick one of those as well. So what efforts are being made to make DRM radios more widely available and affordable to the public? Anybody can take this up.
Well, I'll leave it to Matthew. He's from CML.
I'll take that up as an opportunity for me to talk about my company's product. So CML's involvement in DRM is to create a module. It's I should have got one to hand, but never mind. It's a small subassembly which we've put together, and using this subassembly, it's a complete AM/FM DRM capable radio. It covers from long wave to the top of band 2 VHF, and it's the idea behind the component is that radio manufacturers around the world, in many, not just in traditional manufacturing locations, but in many countries, can make simple to use low-cost radios that are DRM capable very, very easily. And I'm very, very pleased because we have really our first major product announcement. It's there's product launching in India and this will be available later in the year, manufactured in India, and this is a radio that should be affordable for anybody. So we really try to address the need of populations for whom this is likely to be a significant purchase, and something therefore that they will get a lot of value from. And because it's important they do if they're investing a proportion of their salary in such a product. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. And I believe there will be many more low-cost DRM receivers available, hopefully based on our product, or if not ours, someone else's of a similar nature.
Yeah, there are other, as you know, we have receiver manufacturers in the consortium, which is open to everyone. I invite you to join. It doesn't matter if you are an individual or a big company, a small company. And we were very pleased to announce, I think last week, that two of our members have worked together from Korea, UK, Hong Kong, and they have produced a module that brings together DRM and DAB. That's the first, as far as I know, the first such simple platform that can be used in creating a DRM DAB receiver. Very interestingly as well, they went for DRM in AM and CDR, the Chinese digital radio standard, and they've created a model, a module, I should say, a model and a module for that, because China is working on standardizing their own internal digital radio standard. And as far as we know, and we hope, it's a mixture of CDR, Chinese digital radio, and DRM for medium wave and short wave. And what's more important is not only that they are testing, they are doing all the things, but they will recommend, they have recommended already to all the manufacturers, car manufacturers in the country, to include this hybrid, let's call it, or mixed standard, the Chinese, overall Chinese standard, which is DRM and CDR. And I think it's in preparation for that we have seen this module.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. As much as we'd love to keep on going with this session, it's been so insightful. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So this brings us to the end of today's session. A huge thank you to you, Ruxandra, Matthew, and Gunter, for sharing your expertise, and to all of you for being such an engaged audience. We hope this session has given you valuable insights into DRM and its potential to shape the future of radio. Before we wrap up, I want to quickly remind you that WRTH is more than a resource, it's a community. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our latest WRTH 2025 edition, the web app, and the ebook. And for the first time ever, yeah, we're officially announcing now, for the first time ever, our brand new WRTH merchandise collection. You can explore and order all of the WRTH products at wrth.info. And you can find out more information about the phenomenal work DRM is doing at www.drm.org. Thank you again for being here. We look forward to seeing you at our next Radio Unplugged session. Until then, keep tuning in and keep exploring the world of radio. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
That's
you,
fantastic. And send us your questions and we'll reply to them. Yes.
Yes,
and become our members.
Wonderful.
That would be, we'd be more than happy to do that. You know, if there's additional questions, do send them to us.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.